Hello, and welcome to the very first webisode of Sound Advice. My name is Dave Hopkinson, and I've been a musician and sound man for more than 20 years. Now, in all that time, I've noticed that most church sound people have been volunteered into the job, and have had very little, if any, training, and have had to figure most things out for themselves. Well, the purpose of this series is to shine a little light on some of the most common issues that sound men face, and to hopefully demystify a few things as well. So if you're ready, we'll get started with the basics. Now, every technician needs a toolbox that will hold a few of the tools that will come in handy at a gig. So let's take a look at what should be in the case. Number one, a good set of headphones. I cannot stress it enough that if you want to do your job to the best of your abilities, you must be able to hear accurately. Now, there are many headphone choices out there. My only recommendation would be that you try a few different pairs and find the one that you like and buy it. Generally, a mid-price set is almost as good as a higher price set, unless of course you're at the level where you're touring with U2 or something, then you might want to spend a few more bucks. Now, a flashlight, a roll of board tape, and a Sharpie. Now seriously, how many times have you seen a piece of masking tape, duct tape, hockey tape, electrical tape used on a board? And the Sharpie comes in handy for marking your channels and so you know what you're doing. And when the lights get lowered, you have an easier time reading what you have written if you have a flashlight. Now, the other thing you need are good earplugs. Now, I know that may sound counterintuitive to doing good sound, but once you have your sound check done, you're going to want to protect your hearing. And you do that with a good set of earplugs. You might also want to have a few disposable sets with you for emergency use. Now, a small toolkit consisting of an adjustable wrench, maybe a multi-tool, a screwdriver, with interchangeable tips. This one happens to be a ratchet as well, just in case you get into a jam. Okay, some of the other things you might want to keep in your kit are things like batteries, guitar cables, guitar picks, that kind of thing. People forget things and they always look to you to give them a solution. Oh, one last thing. You're going to want to put in one of these. This button can basically be anything that you want. You can label it as a talent button or just a doorbell. Now, this is just an outline of things you should have on hand. If you're a sound man for hire, you'll probably want to keep this kit with you. If you're part of a team at a house of worship or a theater, you'll want to make sure that there's a central location for the kit and that it's kept well stocked. Sound starts at the source. A singer sings into the microphone, that travels down the mic cable and into the mixer's input. Now, the input gain, or trim on some mixers, controls how much of the signal gets into the mixer. The next stop is the EQ section. Now, the EQ section is probably the most misunderstood part of any mixer. There are usually three sections to the EQ: lows, mids, and highs. Now, each section will allow you to boost or cut that range of frequencies. Now, most medium and large format mixers also have sweepable middle EQ sections, and we'll talk more about that in a later episode. The next section on the mixer is the auxiliary section. Now, there are three types of auxiliaries available depending on your mixer. Pre-fade auxiliaries send the signal out of the board and into other equipment, usually monitors, before the signal gets to the fader of the channel. Now, the reason you want to use a pre-fade auxiliary for monitors is because you don't need to have the channel's fader up at all to send signal to the monitor. And no matter what position the fader is in, the signal going out to the monitors does not change. So once you have a good monitor mix, you can concentrate on your main mix. Now, post-fade auxiliaries send the signal out of the auxiliary send, but only if the channel's fader is up. Now, post-fade auxiliaries are used to send signal to outboard gear, such as reverbs and delays. Now, the reason you use post-auxiliary sends in this fashion is that you can easily control the amount of signal you send to outboard equipment, and how much of it is actually going to get there depends on the position of the fader. The third type of auxiliary is the switchable pre-post auxiliary. Now, this auxiliary is switchable depending on what you need for the event that you're mixing at. So if you need another monitor send, you would use the pre-fade setting, and if you need another FX send, you would use the post-fade setting. And don't forget that all the auxiliaries are usually post-EQ, so keep that in mind when EQing a channel. And before I forget, let's talk for a second about the PFL Pre Fade Listen or solo switch on the mixer. This button, when engaged, will direct the signal from that channel directly to the headphone output, so you can listen or solo the channel without having to put it into the mix. It's a very handy thing to use, and you'll probably need to use it a lot as we go on with these lessons. Now the pan. The pan dial is used to assign the signal within the stereo field. Now you can pan left, you can pan right, or you can keep the signal centered. Now as we get to later episodes, we will talk more about opening up your mix using the pan control. Now pan control also helps us send the signal to any subgroups that your mixer may have. Now what are subgroups? I'm glad you asked. A subgroup is used to group together a number of channels and assign them to one subgroup output. Now this is handy when you're mixing, let's say, a drum kit. You can assign all of the drums to one group and use the one group fader to raise or lower the volume of all the drums at once. Now, the fader is used to send the channel to the main output or subgroup output of the mixer. Now the concept is easy. Turn the fader up and the channel gets louder. Turn it down, the channel gets quieter. I also want to point out that the main output faders need to be up in order to hear anything. Just saying. Now I hope you've enjoyed this quick tutorial. Check back often for more videos and feel free to look us up on Facebook.